again?
169. So,
169. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Three, two, one. Hello and welcome to Naija's Geeking Out podcast. This is episode 169, and today is going to be a very special episode. We have, I think, one of our former hosts returning for. I think it's almost been a year, Wally, since we've missed you on the podcast. So it's really glad to see you,
Oh,
obviously. How are you doing?
I am doing so well today. It has been a long time. I can't put into words how glad I am to be back. So yeah, I have no fancy stuff to say right now because I mean haven't been here for a while. So just like to say I'm glad to be back. Can't wait to get into this stuff with you guys.
Yes, and yes, welcome. The quality of the podcast has just gone up dramatically because as Wale is here, the negative on the podcast is also not available because he's running scared. And I'm going to be enjoying this period of silence from Kex because he cannot talk back. So yeah, well, going on the Osred the regular, how are you doing?
Well, I'm glad to be here. And also, welcome to Wale, who used to be the voice of this show. Welcome back.
Thanks a lot, Red. Thanks a lot, Red. I see your name on here is Red the Regular, so I imagine you have completely atoned for your previous sins.
Oh, no,
I
I own the attendance record.
Exactly. I have taken all that mantle from you. Your sins are washed clean, and hopefully you can return the favor to me.
Hopefully soon. We understand. We
And in a
understand.
year's time, hopefully I will atone as well.
You
Okay,
excuse for now.
and Dapo, how are you doing?
Oh yeah, I'm happy. I'm glad to be here. It's nice to see Wally back. Wally whose status in life has changed from a single man to a happily married father. So congrats on that.
It's double
Um,
double
Thank
change.
you.
yeah, double change.
Thank you.
He's joined the crew. Apart from
Thank
so
you.
today you're the only one left out there in the wild. Wow. And today, I have to say,
Yes?
the treatment you are meeting out to our fellow co-host Kex is not very nice. You've made this guy run like a rat scurrying around the house, running away from a cat. You know,
I,
I thought
like,
I, I thought it was made of much better metal than this, but I've been proven wrong.
I mean, I thought the same too. I thought he could take his punishment like a man, but apparently, nah, that's beyond the scope right now.
So
It's
so he
too
was
big
so he
a
was
metal
right.
for
He
him.
was right. He was right if you said this thing is across platform. So you would have gone after him.
Well, okay. So for the our listeners out there who are wondering what on earth are we talking about, Kex and Tunde had a bet about a certain film, Mario film, and Kex lost the bet, which gives Tunde basically carte blanche to tell him to shut the f up anywhere on any line and any media platform. I tried to make this particular podcast a free zone for him, but Kex is he's too scared and he's hiding in his mouse hole. So I think how long is this your bet gonna last? How long do you have this power over
It's
him today?
it's a month. It's a month. A very
Oh
interesting
shit.
month.
Right, okay. So we will also take part of the benefits of this your power of yours to tell him off. But yeah, I'm happy to be back here for this week. Today, what are we talking about this week?
Okay, so we'll be kicking off with some of our discussions from last week, and then Wale is bringing some very fresh perspective on a movie we discussed. Maybe we were not completely fair to Marvels.
Yep.
And yeah, we'll be looking at that as well. Then also discussing some comics, Avengers Twilight from last week, like I mentioned, and also the gods. So kicking
Okay.
it off with Twilight, I think Red has read that now and he wants to give us a brief review.
So, Avengers Twilight. When you guys were talking about this book last week, I was like, okay, what are they talking about? What's this about? I read this and let me say, okay, so I love Kingdom Come.
Okay.
I love Kingdom Come. Um, this, I'll say, is Kingdom Come on steroids. It's a more, it- it's a more, It's still the first episode. Maybe it will. I don't know if it will hold up that standard, but it's a realistic take of what it could be superheroes aging. I mean, I
Yeah,
do have one or two niggles here with how Captain America became got used the serum back,
yeah,
but the run up to that, how he was living happily, still being troubled by the news, but not being a hero, hanging out with what's his name, Luke Cage,
yeah,
and Matt Murdock, who still ran like a pro bono, trying to do good in his own way,
yeah,
but not
yeah.
fighting anymore. And then we got introduced to Tony Stark's son, who has serious daddy issues. you, you know,
Mega.
mega daddy issues. He's the antagonist here so far, as I can say. I don't know if somebody's pushing him, and he pretty much has his dad in a status. I don't know, like in a
Oh, yeah,
state
that's
like
true. Actually, yeah, you're right.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
He
yeah,
had
yeah.
he had him.
It's
He
status
had
quo. Yeah, yeah, that's
yeah,
correct.
and still have and still punishing him, like keeping him alive somehow because he talks to him, right? And
Yeah,
so I like it. I like it's not dystopian, but I like the future where you have all these rules, this curfew, and what's his name, Junior Stark, um,
mhm. Well, the
running
show.
things, running the show. And what were they called? The underground resistance or
Well,
whatever
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
The
yeah,
def-
the
the
resistance,
defenders.
the defenders.
Yeah.
I really didn't like that name, but it was Luke Cage running it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So Luke Cage was the one running it. I don't know where they're going with this. I want to say something.
No, 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 no.
No,
I'm just yeah.
yeah, I don't know where they're going with this, but I love the take. I love where all you're good for right now is a selfie with people who may or may not recognize you. Um, um,
You compared it to Kingdom Come. I did it. Now that you mentioned it, I can see where you're coming from. But I would
yeah,
definitely
it's
say, wait, but when you say Kingdom Come on steroids, that's the bit I didn't understand what you meant by that.
by okay. So for Kingdom Come, it was Mangog that tripped
Yeah,
Superman
yeah, yeah,
over and it went away. Um, but he went away for quite a while, and they all got old.
yeah.
These guys are all old. They've lost their powers. We don't know if they made them give up the powers involuntarily for whatever
Mhm.
reason. They lost their powers. So that's what I mean by Kingdom Come
Well,
on
okay, okay, okay.
steroids. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know where they're going with it, but
You
they
see,
so
I mean, I
yeah,
said last week, I really enjoyed the first issue.
yeah,
My only fear is the first issue,
yeah.
and I can't believe I'm going to say this. When you look at DC and they do comics like Kingdom Come or even Dark Knight Returns, because I
Yeah.
think Tunde compared it to Dark Knight. Tunde, did you compare it to Dark Knight Returns?
Yes,
Yes, I
Yeah.
did.
definitely.
Yeah.
So when you look at those two books by DC are good at doing
Sure.
like a short story. That's Marvel don't tend to do this.
So how many issues is it going for?
I don't know. Don't get me wrong, I think it's going to be a short arc, but I don't think because in Marvel they always try to set it in the current
Yeah.
timeline or very tight to timeline. I don't think what I'm trying to say is at the end of this run, will it be collected and become as iconic as Kingdom Come became or as Dark Knight?
No,
I don't think Marvel has anything like that.
no, no.
You're,
Almost,
you're forgetting Old Man Logan.
I don't think
Yeah,
so at
but it's
all.
not. It's not on
Yeah,
that level.
it's
It
not.
was
It's not.
good, but
It's,
yeah,
it's good. Yeah, I wouldn't.
they
I
they, they had
wouldn't.
the whole. It wasn't just Old Man Logan, Old Man Hawkeye. They had the
Yeah,
whole. None of them were as good as Kingdom Come.
I
If they
just think the
go ahead.
one. There's one, but it wasn't even, and a lot of people have read it, but I think it's the closest I can compare to this is two books. One called Squadron Supreme. That is that's a really good graphic novel collected, and Daredevil. I always get this name mixed up. The one with Nuke. Is that Born Again?
No,
The one that Frank Miller did, which was almost his application to do Dark Knight Returns.
that was Born Again.
Was it okay? So but again, so those are the Marvel don't tend to. So that's what's put me thinking about. This should be, as you said, something along those lines of Dark Knight Returns level, but I don't know.
I'm hoping this is not the way I'm saying this. I'm hoping it's not more than 5 or 6 issues. Anything more, then it's gonna lose some spunk. But right now, it's coming out of the gate strong,
Yeah,
really strong. So I love it so far. I don't know where it's going, but I'll be looking forward to the
So,
next issues.
but yeah, I've had a bit to think about this particular book, and I just wanted to mention something. As you said, you compared it to Kingdom Come, we
Yeah,
compared it to Dark Knight Returns,
yeah,
and I was trying to think about, okay, what makes all these books so similar, like, and what makes them stand out a bit more. And I'm thinking that it's that the setting itself feels antagonistic to the characters.
yeah,
It's like you are writing a setting that is so realistic that the characters are definitely clashing against that setting, and it's that how is it what's the word for this? It's that conflict that gives rise to the interesting storytelling that you would normally not find in a comic book setting like this. So in this world of Twilight, it's like the entire world is against the superheroes, not in a oh they want to kill them. It's just that the world has passed them by. They
yeah.
are no longer as relevant as they used to be. They are no longer as their ideals are no longer being reflected in the world they live in. And I think that's where this story shines. And then you reminded me of what's this thing called? So they start being locked in a cage.
Yeah.
And I'm
Mhm.
not sure I like that bit. I would have
That's
honestly preferred it if the kid himself was just a douchebag without being evil. And like it's just like he's the Tony Stark of the modern age, basically.
so. Let's find
If you
out. We
get my
don't know. We
drift.
don't know why,
No,
because
we don't. Yeah,
he's obviously tipped over into really, really hating his dad and hating everything they stood for. So
yeah,
that's why I
yeah,
said he
yeah.
had daddy issues. So I mean, I get your point, but I would like to see what tipped him over.
Oh, definitely, definitely. But yeah, like why I'm going like this is that I think this is where comics really shine, where they use the ability to their fantastic ability to focus on real issues and put a spotlight on that. So I'm really hoping that Marvel nails this book down. That Chief Darcy delivers is possibly his best work because it has to be his best work if it's going to be as good as it is.
yeah.
And
Agreed.
Yeah.
Wally, we definitely recommend that you read this book, Twilight, Avengers Twilight.
Ooh, I would wait to read more than one.
Let's wait till we finish.
Uh,
Wale, hold on to that. It's still issue one.
Okay.
So
It started strong, is
it
what we're
started
saying here.
really strong. It
Yeah,
started
I
really, really
know.
strong.
I'm okay with just picking up an issue one. So
Okay.
I am putting it on the list today. Thank you very much for that
Okay.
recommendation.
Right.
yeah.
Now, and I think while it's also read, so we're going to talk about gods here. I think while it's also read the first issue, at least, I believe, if that's correct.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, 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 yes. I have indeed read the first issue of
Okay,
Gods.
let's say you have the first issue first, and then we could talk about the rest later on.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. So it's a bit sad, but it's my fault that I'm going to have to be spoiled. So no wahala.
Oh,
Um,
okay. So,
no, 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 don't
no,
worry.
actually,
It's
I don't think you will
totally
be. But
fine.
you carry on.
Yeah, of course. In any case, I think the first issue of Gods is double sized. I think it's 60 pages, I think. So, I mean, there's plenty to get into in there. It was interesting. So I'm going to just mention something. For the last year or so, I have really not had much time to read comics. Um,
Okay.
I think pretty much all of my comic reading time has been eaten up by Comic Republic comics. So,
Yeah.
for anyone who doesn't know, I also write for a Nigerian comic imprint called Comic Republic. And yeah, there's a lot of fancy stuff going on there, but now it's not the time to talk about it. But that sort of has taken up much of my comic reading time. So it was really refreshing to have a comic that I could jump into and just kind of pick up and read. And I'll say something about Gods. The marketing for it has been pretty slick. I've got Amazon recommending it to me for a while now. I've been seeing the covers around. and I've been looking at it and wondering what's going on here. GODS, what's happening? Are they bringing back all the strongest Marvel heroes and elevating them to the level of gods? Are they doing something like what DC did with their main Justice League? What was the name of that book that Mike Ross wrote, where Superman and the rest became like icons or something, and the whole thing was just this what was it called again? Legends. I've forgotten what it was called, where it was in the future and all the
What, Kingdom
uh,
Come?
yes, Kingdom
Oh
Come,
yeah, yeah,
where
yeah,
all
yeah.
the DC heroes were larger than life and it was incredible, and the Flash was just this amazing guy who was everywhere all at once. Well, I pick up the book and it's nothing like that. So, if you are a Marvel fan and you've been looking at the marketing for this book and you think it's going to be something like the Marvel Illuminati, where you're going to have like a super version of Black Panther and Doctor Strange and everything, just forget about it. This book essentially is a completely new IP. I have to be honest, it feels like something out of Dark Horse or Vertigo. It features a character called Win, who's the main character, and I have to be honest, he reminded me of Constantine.
Constantine, yeah.
Yeah, that's just basically who he was. Um, and we do have some Marvel heroes, but with the exception of Doctor Strange, they're just to be jobbed. So if you truly are a Marvel head, you want to go into this book with your eyes open. It's not going to be full of fan service for you. But then the question, I think the big question is it a great book? Well, I'll say I liked a lot of things about the book. I like the whole idea of these sort of like multiversal beings, the powers that be, fighting against like the natural order of things. So it gives you this idea that you have these opposing philosophies. They're like gods of agency. They're the powers that be. They want to do something. They want to be the powers behind everything. And then there's the natural order of things, which is almost like sort of natural chaos. It's almost like the stuff that already exists, allow it to continue to exist and not exert your will upon it and control it. And Win, the main character, is an agent of the powers that be. And we get to see two stories run concurrently. There is a dilemma that he is pushed into with his wife, who is immortal, and she has to choose between remaining immortal or becoming an immortal and working for the opposing god to win. So I'm not going to spoil the choice that she makes, but the choice she has to make is becoming a centaur for the natural order of things, which would make her a mortal enemy of Win, who is an avatar of the powers that be. And there is a very interesting dynamic with their relationship and how it proceeds. And then there is another story in which Win, alongside Doctor Strange, has to fight against a multiversal threat coming to destroy the whole world. And I really enjoyed the way the book just jobbed the whole Marvel universe by just sort of implying that, oh, the world is about to be destroyed. The multiversal threat is coming to blow all of you up. And it's Tuesday night. And it's just normal for that to just happen in Marvel. And everybody is here. The Fantastic Four is here. Reed Richards is here. All the geniuses are here. But it always happens in Marvel. So we don't even care. We're not even going to give them speaking parts. They're just going to stand there, and then they're going to try to solve the problem by beating up the enemy, and they're going to get absolutely wrecked. While Wayne uses his common sense and Constantine like bargaining ability to make something else happen. So it was an interesting sort of welcoming back of me to the world of reading Marvel comics. Made me really sit down and ask myself, how do I, if this is this the way comics are going to go now? Are they going to start making fun of themselves and making fun of the central idea of superhero comics? So I'm looking at Hickman with a side eye.
Yeah,
uh
I was gonna say, in case nobody's noticed it yet, when you start hearing Avatar and Sentiva, you know Hickman is in the mix, and start hearing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm looking at Hickman with a side eye, and I am very interested in hearing what you guys have to say about what happens in the future episodes. And of course, you can spoil the things I didn't want to spoil about the first book as you go along. But I'm really looking forward to it. One thing I'll say before I hand over to whoever's going to review the second book is I did in fact start reading the second book, and one scene in that book that really, really got a smile out of me was when one character was they were talking about the god that they serve, and in the book they have this thing they do where they refer to the gods they serve as God. So if you work for the powers that be, you would call the power that be God, and if you worked for the natural order of things, you would call them God, right? One of the characters is like, why do we even call them God? I mean, we just fought some multiversal threat that was punching them in the face and was beating them up. We know that this omniscience and omnipresence is not really a big deal. Why are we calling them that? And then all of a sudden, the god just showed up, bah! And then just give them this biblical dressing down. And then just left, bah! And it was like, okay, okay, we will call you by the name you want us to call you. And that was just so cool. It's like, yeah, your God doesn't have to be omnipresent and omniscient before they are powerful enough to come and give you a knock on the head for disrespecting them. Okay, so yeah, that's episode one of Gods. I already have my opinion of it, but I'm going to save it until you guys have picked up on the future episodes.
That's fine. I mean, I think we've reviewed. To remind me, which ones did we review in the last podcast?
We've reviewed one and two. I think we didn't like three that much because it was ripping off the same thing.
Yeah.
And you read four and you went back and you changed your mind.
Yes. Yes.
But before
So
we go there, just to address Wally quickly, that
yes.
most of what you said, this is something that we also had issues with in the when we were reviewing it earlier on. Like you are hitting some of the same points we hit there, and it's interesting for your perspective or what you're expecting going into the book. That you were expecting, how did you put it? Like the Illuminati on steroids. I think we didn't expect that because the books had been teased in the X-Men books that we were reading at that point in time.
That's right. Yeah.
Going
That's right.
forward,
Yeah.
yeah. So we knew what we were going to get in for that. It's funny that we still ended up with the same perspective on the same book.
Yeah.
I would also add that what you said, that it felt like an indie book. I think it was Keck's biggest complaint that
Yeah.
the book, if it was in an indie world, would have made more sense for him rather than it being in the Marvel world where we already know the characters being dropped, like you said. And that's something to note. So, but before I continue, I think I'll let Dak go because he came back and read it and said he has changed his mind to some things to talk. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, remember. So first issue, generally, I think our viewpoints generally aligned. We all felt. I think I still enjoyed the first one a bit more than you and Kex did. But I think I did understand your issue that this could have been in any universe, not in Marvel universe. You could have easily swapped out Doctor Strange for anybody else, and this would have worked the same way. And two or three, in a way, I felt that strongest for me in issue three. Actually, I think I told you this today. That issue three is when I felt strongest. That this looked like a book that was retooled for them for
Yep.
the Marvel. Say that again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Said
So
yes.
that's
Yes.
yeah. So that's what I felt. But four brought me back on board totally. And don't get me wrong. When I said brought me back on board, I was not off board anyway. But four made me enjoy this much more. I do have to admit one thing. Every issue I read, I find it necessary to go back and read the previous ones again. So every time I read a new issue, I'm reading like the whole thing again. And I think that also, each time I reread, I'm kind of spotting little things I did not spot before. That makes the picture even a bit more clearer,
or
or you
complete.
just find little things that, oh, okay, this ties into that. With 4, I'm fully on board now with what he's doing. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm already 5 and then change my mind again, but I'm now more sold with 4. I think 4 ties in a lot of what's come back in the first 3 into what I think is my first view of, okay, where are you actually going with this? I kind of think I've got an idea of where we're going with this. So I really enjoyed 4 a lot. But I'm not now. What I'm also not sure is, did I just enjoy 4 because 4 was much better, or because 4 put more bits in that when I reread 1 to 3, it tied in a lot better. I'm not sure. Have you read 4 today? Actually, let me ask that question.
Yeah, I've read 4,
Okay, all
and
right.
I think
I want to see your view. Yeah, go on, go on.
yeah, what you're referring to that happened in 4 is that it sets more of a narrative hook for the story
Right.
going forward.
Okay.
So 2 and 3 were complete digressions, like
Yes.
exploring completely different stories and ideas and new characters, like basically just setting the stage. And 4 just picks up on that and continues the narrative, the same villain we got in issue 1, and
Correct.
continues
Yes.
that going forward. So, in a sense, it's not fixing the issue I have originally with issue 1, that
Right.
it doesn't fit the universe, it feels out of place. It just makes it a more coherent story.
Yeah.
And I think Hickman has done this before, but when he did it in Avengers and in X-Men. But back then, we already knew the overhacking story. Like, if you
Correct.
remember the
Yeah.
early issues of X-Men after the House of X and Powers of X, you would have
Yeah.
single issues that were about something completely different, like when Sync and X-23 went to the vault, and we
Right. Yeah.
forgot
Yeah. Yeah.
about that for completely. When some old women attacked them on Krakoa, and we forgot about that entire arc completely.
Yeah.
So he has. This is how he writes his stories. But previously, we always have a central arc covering everything. And we are okay, regardless of what's happening. We know what the main story is about. But here, before episode 4 happened, 2 and 3 were just like, what's going on? Completely different
Yeah.
story. So that's why I think 4 works in a way that it's helping you tie everything from issue 1 down to this particular story. And, okay, I'm telling you, okay, so this is where the villain is. This is what the bad guy is planning. This
Yeah.
is the normal story beats you would expect to
Correct.
follow. But still, I still reserve all my issues with the book.
Yeah. So, in a way, Wally, I don't think we spoiled anything because, to be honest, we don't even need to get into details in what happens. It's what you've read in 1, and I think today's correct. Actually, now that I think about it, what you read in 1, the part 2 of it is really more issue 4, technically, than the 2 in between. The 2 in between are, yeah, I think one of them is definitely a side mission, like almost like a side mission
Mm.
and some more background. I'm trying to remember what the other one was. What happened
The
in that one?
introduction of the girl, the new Sentiva,
Yeah, so that's
the
the one
one in
that's,
the library.
yeah, so yeah, not Setfar. She's the opposite, but I know what you mean. She's the one I'm
Yeah.
calling a side mission,
Oh,
like
okay.
a recruitment mission.
Yeah.
So what was
And
it? What was? Yeah, go on. Remind me, what was
I'm
the other
trying to
one?
remember I'm trying to remember what's issue 2. But it was also about the Sentiva. I think the recruitment of it was the recruitment of one of them.
Oh, actually, sorry. Yes, I think I remember this now.
So we meet the girl in the library that discovers the Sentinel by
Yeah,
mistake, and then she also recruits somebody else in issue 3, and then in issue 4 we go back to the original story.
that's right. Yeah. So it's almost like, yeah, you had some side missions, but 100% carries on the narrative.
And it's not
Uh,
Hickman. It's not Hickman trying to build stories, build a world that will eventually
well,
tie
now,
together.
now, and this is where I kind of might agree with Tunde. I do have a strong feeling this book, he had this book in mind already, and it was not originally Marvel.
I
And,
agree with you
and
100%.
yeah,
I think this is probably something he was planning to do on his Substack, and he decided that he needed that paycheck.
So now we when and that's what I said, and actually 100% again agree with that view today is when he did his work on X-Men, when he did his work all back in on Avengers Fantastic Four, we were in the universe we already knew about, and he used those as a bit of a push everything forward. This book most of the universe is almost like a background noise, and almost all the characters we're following are all brand new. The only person who's got a key role that's not brand new is Doctor Strange. When we see all the other characters, they're just like literally off to the side, like waka pass extras.
Absolutely. I
You
mean,
know,
the
so
first issue, was it not Reed, Richard, and T'Challa that were just,
I know this continues throughout.
relegated?
They are background dressing to the
To the central story.
Doctor Strange
Yeah.
and the Centiverse story, the magic versus science, story. So, but I think four for me removed a lot of my worries about this. So I'm kind of in a good place now, more than I was. I mean, I was on board anyway, and I'm biased towards Hickman anyway.
Yeah,
But this
that's
kind of
interesting.
dampen down any reservations I might have had about where this was going for me personally.
No, so I would say this about Ickman. I think, regardless of how I feel about the book and its direction, I think Ickman is still one of the best, if not the best, comic book writer
Well, currently,
ongoing.
yeah.
Yes, currently writing,
Currently, okay.
because the way I think uh, the way it tells the stories in comic form, it knows how to maximize the use of language and then pictures together. It's not something everybody can do. Bendis would rather spill and write a proper novel, a prose novel with some pictures at the background. Some other people don't know how to balance that structure well, like Tom King. But the way Ickman writes dialogue in comic book form, I think it's one of the strongest because there are several dialogues. Even in, I think last we talked about Ultimate Spider-Man, the
Oh
way he
yeah,
writes his dialogue in this
yeah,
book as well, it's always dense with meaning,
yeah.
and it's always hitting a point directly. He knows how to was this word condense his language into a singular meaning and that you get it quickly and you understand it and it pushes the story forward. So as much as I'm down with the book, that's the matter of I don't like the direction. Not that the
Mm.
book is not good. I would This is the kind of book where I will tell people I don't like it, but I 100% recommend it for anybody that likes comics to check out. I just don't fancy the world building that is going on here. It's not
Right.
my. I think I said this
Very
last
interesting.
time as well. It's not my cup of tea, and I've
Okay.
seen Ickman do this kind of world building a couple of times before. That it feels a bit repetitive, even though this underlying storytelling with it is really good. So yeah,
Let me ask you a question, and this is to everybody in this podcast. You said something. You made a statement earlier, and it made me think of something. After Hickman, who do you think is close to Hickman in writing currently?
I'm going to say something that you're not going to like it.
Don't say Tom King.
Yes,
Don't if you're gonna say Tom King, then just don't say it.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say Tom King. And what I mean by in writing, in technical skills of actually putting down words to paper, I think Tom King is really is up there. The story is telling can be terrible. It can be absolutely dog shit. But in terms of actually writing, like reading what he's writing, he's an actually very good writer.
Right. It's funny you said that because my choice, I I was expecting the same reaction I had to you to your choice. I'm expecting the same reaction to my choice. But let me hear what Red. Have you got anybody in mind, Red?
No, no, no.
Wally, have you got anybody in mind that you think?
I have to think about it. No.
No, nobody.
I'm even scared to say this name because I know. So this person I'm going to mention, I know. I think he's churning work out now, and he's a bit of a hack now. But I think he potentially had all the tools and necessary ingredients to write at Hickman level. But sometimes it takes out it takes shortcuts and he just wants the money. Do you know what I'm talking about today?
Miller, really?
Yes, yes, yes. Miller, I think I can see flashes of that Miller can do this if he wanted to, but I think he's
Which Miller are you talking about?
Mark
Mark.
Mark
Okay.
Miller.
Mark Miller.
Yeah.
I'm a
I,
fan, but I won't rate him that high. No.
no, don't get me wrong. He's nowhere there because I think
No.
he let himself down in my view.
Okay.
He now does. You know what? I'm just going to do high level drawing.
Bank a lot.
Yeah, exactly. He's on the bank and let's cruise. But when I read things like Jupiter's Legacy, especially when it first started, I thought, oh, this guy's cool. He can do it. Beyond that, I mean, I got the regulars, your Neil Gaimans, your Warren Ellis, but I don't want to go down to the normal routes.
No,
But,
so yeah,
You
but
see,
you said correctly,
the
right?
thing with Miller, the thing
You
with
said
Miller,
correctly writing. Yeah. Okay.
So
Miller is
go on.
correctly writing.
Yeah. So
The
go
thing
to
with Miller is that he can, how will I put them? He can tell a good surface story, but I've not seen Miller actually tell a deep story. If you get what I mean, like on a surface level, he can give you a very good outline of how a good story should go, of how a good comic should go, and that's like you will read the outline and you will enjoy it. But like his characterization, I've not seen it go deep beyond surface level two-dimensional characters. I've not really seen I've not really seen some complexity in his character work. And I can't think I can name a Mac Miller character that will go, oh yeah, this is a well done, three-dimensional, well-rounded character.
well, even in Jupiter's Legacy.
Even in Jupiter's Legacy, he's the spoiled brat and his father. Spoiled
No.
brat father, wicked uncle.
What about the gay? What about the gay uncle and his backstory?
What?
I can't remember his name. He had one gay uncle that when he was a hero, he had to hide his gayness. And
Let me not okay. I don't want to be too harsh on I don't want to be too harsh on what's this thing called. But like that is the stock story you tell for people
I
coming out of
felt
the
that's
closet.
quite good. I actually thought it
No,
was quite
see,
good.
it's brave they did that story. It's brave he did the story, but that story was not complex. It's like the stock coming out of the closet story. You don't really get like that particular uncle. You don't really get much out of him beyond that. If you get them, like there's
No,
that.
I'm not referring to in the main comic when they
You
did this.
mean Jupiter's legacy, not
There's another.
Oh,
Jupiter's?
sorry. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, the
I'm
backstory.
never sure which one is which. That's all.
No, so
Okay.
Jupiter Circle is the present one. I think Jupiter's
Got you.
legacy is
Yeah,
the
got you.
previous one.
Okay.
Yeah, is the one that tells their stories from the beginning till down. Now, that particular storytelling from beginning to now, it's really good. The one with the journey to the past, it's really good. But we don't examine these characters so deeply because of how quickly we are jumping from age to age. It's like we are just forcing ourselves to eat story bit upon story bit and getting to guess at the deep backstories without really examining them properly. And
Okay.
that's why I want to put Mark Miller on top with Hickman and Tom King.
See, even well, okay, you like Tom King, you're biased to Tom King. What sets Hickman apart is not just it's how you weave the stories, how you connect all the different angles together and bring it together eventually. Hickman would tell and starts in all these disparate angles. You'll know he's going somewhere, but you're not sure where he's going. But everything matters. Every word he puts down, none is random.
Can I make a statement here? And I
Go
want you
ahead.
to agree or disagree.
Go ahead.
His best work
Hmm.
is in Marvel.
You
Running his
think?
own.
You think?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm putting it out there.
That
Okay.
Hickman's best work is in Marvel.
Yes, I
What do you consider?
not his own stuff.
I,
Hmm.
I think he needs supervision. Anytime he goes off on his own, he loses discipline. Because
I know you got a big bugbear about him not
yeah,
finishing
no,
work.
because East of West is a really, really good story.
Yeah,
A really, really good story. But by the time he got to episode issue 37, it was like, okay, somebody's told me to finish this.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can
Black
tell.
Monday's mother, the way he started that
Oh yeah, that was annoying.
off the bat.
Yeah.
Dying and the Dead, you can tell he has all these grandiose ideas. Then we won't go to his Fantastic Four, Marvel, and his Secret Wars. But I think those guys have a timeline.
No,
He has
so
something. So, what you say? Go ahead.
no,
Yeah.
Hickman is the best all rounder. But I think that in terms of telling his, how will I put that? In terms of writing a story,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of putting words to paper in a comic book that makes best use of the comic book format.
Yep.
Aikman is up there, is the best. He can tell a fantastic story altogether. But
Okay.
I would also give Tom King because Tom King knows this is, and
Is
I
Ellis
hate so-
is Ellis currently writing?
no, I hate Tom King's books. Like there are several books of Tom King I absolutely detest because I don't like the story he's telling. But I would not now because I detest your book say I don't acknowledge the skill of writing that Tom
Okay.
King
So
has.
can I tell my biggest problem with Tom King? If I know I call him a hack and I call him all sorts of names, and yes, I know some of his books I do enjoy. I think, and this might again because he's playing in other people's sandbox. I think sometimes, not sometimes, I think half the time he doesn't care about that sandbox he's playing in. He just wants to tell a story, and he will change he doesn't care about what the character is, establish the character, and then get them to doing things to suit his narrative, even if those things are stupid as heck when you look at the history of that character, or even forget history. The story he's writing in Wonder Woman right now. The idea of it is good, but the way he's executed it just looks just plain stupid to me. I almost can't even believe it's even allowed. But then he also did the same thing in things like what's that one with the is it Our Man? No, what did I say? Our Man, the targets, the human targets one. But yet then he goes and writes the not the Doctor Strange, the Adam Strange book, second
Yeah.
one, which was awesome, and I love that book. But I just think sometimes he doesn't either he's writing too much. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe he's not somebody who should write as many comics as he is for DC. Maybe he's
Yeah.
better writing, less. Did you read the one about from the one with the Watchmen one? I can't remember what it was called.
I stopped reading that book. It was too much for me. I read
Exactly.
like 3 or 4 issues and I realized this book is not for me. Tom King is making this into confusing. I'm dropping out of it.
That same
That's
that
the
same
guy.
feeling you have, I'm having
Yeah.
with another book he just finished recently. The one with
Which one?
the one with Scataris. What's that guy from Scataris? Where some kids in the town.
Oh, Danger Street.
Yeah, Dinner Streets.
Yeah. No. I'm not going to finish. I'll probably finish it sometime in the future. I started it, but I'm like, nah. So that's the thing. All
Yes.
these books now, he, I respect his craft.
And
And that's what I'll give
can you
to him.
call him the best if you can't even sit through his books?
No, see, I'm not saying I like his book, but I'm saying on a technical level, I respect Tom King's craft. I respect what he's doing.
Mhm.
It and what he's trying to accomplish. Not a lot of people actually write like that. Not a lot of people actually take the kind of storytelling risk that Tom King takes and balancing that. So, him for me, I would always respect someone that overreaches in terms of talent and falls short, rather than someone that plays safe and tells the same old story we've been reading all this while. Tom King, for all his faults, is trying to tell something new. He's trying to tell something different with his stories. He's not always going for the same safe stories. When I'm reading a Tom King book, I don't know what to expect generally. I don't really get where the narrative is going to at the end of the day. And for that, I value that a bit more than a
Okay.
Macmillan book that from the issue one, I already know the middle and the end of the
Okay.
story. Yeah. But
Right. So
I'll name some other writers quickly and see if
yeah,
you
go
guys
on.
respect them as well.
Yeah.
Snyder,
Scott
No.
Snyder.
No.
Scott Snyder, yeah.
Mark says no.
Mark
So,
Wade,
oh yeah,
Who?
Mark Wade.
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah,
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
yeah.
definitely. I think Mark Wade knows how to write comic books, even if he's not writing what I like right now, but he knows how to write comic books. Yeah.
What about
Uh,
Ellis? Warren Ellis.
Yeah. Well,
fun,
I'm an Ellis fanboy, but I'm
Yeah,
not sure he's writing anything at the
he's
moment.
not writing at the moment.
Yeah.
yeah. Jeff Lemire,
I like
So
him.
So I actually do like him. I just think he has some psychological issues.
Huh?
And it's like
I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that.
his books are on some deep
T- t-
level.
can I even say something? I think there's a lot of writers out there now,
Yeah.
more than I think in a long time, that where if I say their name, I'm actually, I won't say excited, but I think, oh, okay, yeah, I don't mind writing. It's weird, like Jed McKay. I know I would not hate his book. Um,
Jed Mackey, I know I will not read this book.
see,
Oh, why not?
that's you. Jason
Yeah.
Aaron. I love,
Definitely.
I love Aaron generally. Um,
Mm.
Tom Taylor.
Al Elwin.
All that ring.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah. Yep.
If you put tiers, if I put Hickman as like God tier, my next tier down are the
So that's what
oh,
I was expecting. Not Mac
uh,
Miller. I was expecting
yeah,
Al and
Al
uh,
Killian Gillen.
Al, Aaron,
Kieran
Kieran
Gillian,
Gillen,
Kieran Gillian, yes,
Wade,
yes.
um, Ellis.
Yeah.
Those are people I was expecting.
I'd even put the wings, the Gillians above weight. To be honest,
I think
Possibly.
we can make this an episode on its own. Let's talk
I
about
think we
comic
should.
book
I think we
writers.
should. Yeah, I think we should. So
Yeah.
yeah, we've digressed way off track.
Yeah.
I'm-
We left Wale out in the cold.
that
Okay.
was all my
Uh,
fault. I apologize, but I
quick
think I've
one.
covered. So yeah, go on, Red.
Yeah, just like, do you guys rate Greg Rucker, or is he in the same bucket as Hickman?
For
let's say
yeah.
I will put that
We have
down.
to table this down for
Yeah,
Yeah.
next week.
next week. Yeah,
So next week we'll list out writers and we'll put them on the tier list and then we'll do our top 10.
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, top 10. Oh,
Yeah.
that's top 10. Okay.
Okay.
yeah. So,
Yeah. I think
We,
then the
we have
last
Keck
thing.
send we have Keck send his top tier in.
No, if he cannot come on the podcast and defend his top 10 himself, he should get out.
you get that. So anything
But
more
okay,
about Gods 1 to 4 or good one?
now I think we can move on from gods now. We
Yeah.
have
But
one more
before we move
topic we want
on,
to talk
I
about.
want you to rate it now. As where you are now, because you read 4 now. If you're going to give it a rating
Okay.
out of 5, where would you put it now at the moment?
I'll give it a 3.5.
That's good.
That's the exact score I was going to give it for where I am now. So I don't like,
Yeah.
for you, we're going to go lower. That's for some reason.
Nah, I don't
Yeah,
hit
so
it, man.
yeah, so it's
But
3.5.
while I'm interested, how did you rate the book, issue 1 out of 5?
Yeah, out of 5, you're going to rate it.
I would give it a 6.5. I think it's above average. I like the art style.
Yeah,
And
that's good. Yeah.
I thought the characters were mildly interesting. But it's not a book that I would normally continue if not for the fact that it's a Marvel book.
Right.
I'm interested in seeing what's going on next. If it was an indie book, and I'd started reading it, I would have just kind of gone, oh, it's okay, and put it aside.
Oh,
Okay.
really? That's an interesting perspective because Keck said the exact same opposite. That it's because it's a Marvel book. That's why he doesn't like it as much. That if it was an indie book, he would have been more interested in reading the story. But yeah, I find the varying viewpoints interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. In my case, because I'm not really so into the book, I'm just curious to see how it's going to tie into the Marvel universe. Doctor Strange is there, so I'm like, okay, let's see what's going on here. But if it was its own thing, I'd be like, yeah, this is fine. Discount, Walmart brand, Constantine, yeah, and that's it.
Okay, so yeah, moving on. I think Wani, we had some interesting discussion about Marvels, and that's why I really wanted to hear your take on it.
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to confess to not having listened to the to the episodes where you guys reviewed the Marvels,
Okay.
and I think I was
Careful.
really busy with a
Careful.
lot of
Whoa.
yeah, I was really busy with a lot of IRL stuff around the time when the Marvels came out, so I did not see it in cinemas. I think this has actually broken a long streak of me having seen every single MCU movie in cinemas within roughly a week of it coming out. So I don't know what that says about the MCU, but there you go. I did not see this movie in cinemas. There was a lot of IRL stuff going on, but also I almost didn't even know when it came out.
Oh wow.
So that's just how bad the marketing was for that movie. So yeah. Anyway, when I was finally ready to watch the movie, it was gone from cinemas, and because Disney have finally realized how much of a suicide mission the whole streaming thing was, they decided not to make it appear on streaming immediately. So I found myself in a black hole where I had no way to watch the movie. So for quite a while, I just could not watch the movie. And it has only recently been released in buy to keep form, meaning that Disney has doubly learned their lesson. They're not releasing it for free on Disney Plus. They no longer care about the fake magic money of subscriptions. They have decided that they are going to actually try to sell copies of the movie first before they do that. And I say, good on them. I say, thank you. Stop completely destroying the marketplace that you have striven so hard to build. I'm not saying that I want to waste all my money on these movies, but the truth of the matter is that they can't pay for themselves if you don't monetize them. And if you train us to believe that we'll watch them for free 2 months after they come out in cinemas, most of us are not going to care about going to see them. So yeah, that was the story of me watching the Marvels, and that's why it's taken me this long to watch it. I'll say one thing about my assumptions before I went in to watch the movie. I had assumed before watching the Marvels that this movie was going to be a quote unquote reverse Barbie. So allow me to explain what that means. So I did watch Barbie in the cinema. Um,
Okay.
and I found it to be a really fun movie. I found it to be really interesting and I really enjoyed it. And I can see where that movie made $1 billion because in the theater where I watched it, everyone was going wild watching the movie. And the theater was just filled with women. There were girls everywhere. And they knew what was going on. And there were many times when there were audience reactions, when things happened that I did not understand. um, I just always had this idea that a lot of people, a lot of girls had Barbies when they were growing up and they weren't really into them like that. They just kind of had them as dolls. I didn't realize that a lot of a lot of people know a lot about Barbie and like Barbie a lot and wanted many different versions of Barbie. So when some scenes came up in the movie that would normally have me cringe because I know that the online comic book geeks would get angry about them, like when a big feminist speech was being made or when the men were being made to look silly and so on, there was laughter and sort of positive engagement in the cinema. And that got me thinking that a lot of the stuff that we've been seeing in recent Marvel movies, where there's sort of a focus on sort of denigrating the male characters and so on and so forth, and a lot of sort of heavy-handed application of empowering the female characters. So, not empowering the female characters in sort of positive, strong ways, but having to do this sort of weird sort of mean girls like punchlines or putting down other characters or the basically She-Hulk style rubbish. Um, I had thought that um, the reason that all this stuff would be poison for anything that you were sort of aiming at that kind of nostalgic audience, but it very clearly played very that sort of thing played very well to the audience of Barbie, and that kind of convinced me that oh, if you put this stuff in boys' nostalgia, you're going to be hated for it. But if you put it in girls' nostalgia, it's going to be great. So when the Marvels came out and completely flopped, I thought, okay, the Marvels was probably full of a lot of Barbie style, She-Hulk style nonsense, and it's been resoundingly rejected. Boy, was I so wrong.
Wait, sorry, before you go on a bit more, your topic on nostalgia, like
Yeah,
your difference between girl nostalgia and boy nostalgia. Are you
yeah.
saying She-Hulk was boy nostalgia?
So She-Hulk was marketed as boy nostalgia because She-Hulk comics are Marvel comics.
Doctor
But
Nostalgia.
but when you watch it, it's basically Fleabag mixed with um, something by Issa Rae, mixed with the other black girl, mixed with some weird um, Netflixy Gen Z sitcom thing. And there's a lot of silly stuff there, which is making fun of the actual audience that it's directed at. It literally has a complete lampooning of the entire Marvel universe. It asks itself why such stories. It completely makes such stories look like they're complete nonsense at the end. It's navel gazes it's into itself and criticizes itself to the point where by the time it gets to the end, it's just this incoherent mess, and it feels almost like you're sitting down in a room in a writer's room with people throwing ideas at the wall. It's almost like we hate this comic book stuff and would rather not be making it, so we're going to make fun of it. And if you were in a room with, if this was a My Little Pony movie, where the audience was a bunch of girls who loved My Little Pony and hated the fact that their brothers enjoyed He-Man and Superman, it would probably work. But this is a bunch of guys who read She-Hulk. And at the end of the day, what was She-Hulk? She-Hulk was basically a glorified pin-up girl version of the Hulk. You know, this was good girl comics. This is heavy metal fact too. It's not the Handmaid's Tale. So I had assumed
I
that
so,
this
but
was what
I kind of
happened.
disagree with your take there. It's like I'm trying to
He
pinpoint
hasn't.
where
He
exactly.
hasn't even reviewed Marvel yet. He hasn't
I
No,
haven't
not
reviewed
reviewed the
Marvel
Marvels
Marvels.
yet.
Like
yet, but
it's
Okay.
not even the Marvels
let's
I'm
get
concerned about. It's like
yeah.
it's that
Let,
particular takeoffs. I'm trying to pinpoint where I'm having an issue with you
you know what
separating the
today?
success of
You know what
Barbie
today?
and the success. Yeah.
I think my first dissonance was maybe the use of the word nostalgia. I don't think She-Hulk was pinned on nostalgia at all.
So here's what I
I
mean by
do
nostalgia.
agree. So go on,
What
yeah.
when I'm saying nostalgia, I'm talking about the audience. I'm not talking about the show.
Yeah,
So
no, yeah, but
the show itself had nothing to do with nostalgia. If you walked into that show expecting nostalgia to be satisfied, that show slapped your face with it, telling you you are an idiot for liking this
yeah, so,
thing.
but you said that it was nostalgia. That's why I was a bit confused.
Oh, sorry. That's maybe just me
Okay,
using the word. So
okay.
basically, the idea is that I'm saying a show that's supposed to be that sort of nostalgia.
Yeah, yeah. I think,
That's what the brand is, but
yeah.
this was a subversion of that.
Okay.
You know.
Sorry,
So
I interrupted today.
No, yeah, because like I think the comparison of Barbie and what's it called, She-Hulk, that the audience is aimed at, that Barbie was aimed at women and She-Hulk was aimed at men, because it's that men are the primary, what's this thing called? What's the word for this? Primary audience for
so
the
today
She-Hulk TV show.
So today I'm going to try to correct you really quickly because I want us to power through this so we don't derail
Yeah.
the original review. But it's not. I'm not saying She-Hulk was aimed at men. It wasn't aimed at men. She-Hulk was a failure because it failed to capture the audience it was supposed to be aimed at. You watch She-Hulk and it's an insult to the audience that it should be aimed at. I think that's the best way of putting it. So, a theoretical She-Hulk that doesn't exist would be aimed at men because She-Hulk, the property, She-Hulk, the comic book, was aimed at men when it was originally made. You know, at the end of the day, whether or not it's like saying, talking about, for example, Wonder Woman comic books in the 90s, they would say they were aimed at women, but they were not really. It was boys just reading those things. Same thing with She-Hulk, right? So the She-Hulk property has that audience. It has that audience capture, but you're not servicing that audience.
So
You're servicing a mythical
this is where
audience that's not
I totally
watching
disagree
it.
with that. The most successful She-Hulk comic was that show. Was what the show was based on. Yes, She-Hulk was like, oh, female girl power, super Hulk, normal male, like a female version of a male character. And yeah, it had She had comics. But what they based this film on was the most successful run of She-Hulk, which was literally like that. But I don't want to get into that. But one thing you are right on.
Yeah.
They went for the audience. They went for a certain crap. They went to attack a certain subsection of the audience, which happened to be the most vocal section of the audience as well. And they did go for them.
Yeah, they did. But I also have a feeling that they went for pretty much everyone else as well, because normally the straw man that those guys normally paint for almost all the other shows that are like that was this show. Like other shows would say, oh, they just brought the Hulk on there to denigrate him, and then you and I would watch it and be like, not really. But when you watch this show, it basically hits you over the head with, okay, we're going to give you like 20 minutes sort of dedicated to making the Hulk look stupid and to show that She-Hulk is better than him. That's definitely not how the original would have played in the comic books. So, and so much of it is contemporary, so much of it is sort of rooted in sort of online social media culture, that you can basically see. I mean, you're making this thing, and the audience that's watching it is not the audience that should be consuming this thing. If you really wanted to have that kind of story and put it into a nostalgia product, you would put it into a nostalgia product that people who watch Fleabag, people who watch Issa Rae stuff would be interested in, not She-Hulk. You know, the fact that you have Megan Thee Stallion in it showed that you had already gotten to that dissonance level, because you're just switching them all off at that point. You know.
Before we just this last before I continue, because what I'm getting from you is that basically Marvel should not make content for women.
No. So what I'm saying is that Marvel is building nostalgia products, and if they build that nostalgia products, they have to respect the audience capture.
See, I don't get why people saying this. I don't get what you mean by they're building nostalgia for on what, on who? Who's got nostalgia for?
Superheroes. These are comic books that were popular.
So that means every film is a nostalgia project. Then every superhero film is a nostalgia project.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So when I'm talking about when I'm saying nostalgia product in this focus, I'm talking about in the sense that Spider-Man No Way Home. You watch that thing and it's just all the dopamine that's firing in your head is pure nostalgia.
Was 100% nostalgia, but the other two before it, the films before it wasn't.
Oh,
so
no,
I don't get why you say.
So what I mean by nostalgia is not that you've watched the story before. So for example, take Barbie. You've not watched that story before, but it's the fact that you're seeing Barbie on screen and you have nostalgia for Barbie as an IP. So it's the same thing here. You're seeing a brand new story, but we're tapping into your sort of childhood attachment to these comic books and to these worlds.
So let me give an example. If I take what the MCU, I was actually going to pick up a film, but the whole MCU, while it might it's using superheroes, but I also by the very definition of using superheroes is nostalgia, because then the MCU would have been tied down to the geek crew.
Oh, so here's the thing, right?
It's just making a film that people like.
It's not. I'm not being pedantic and saying that it has to be a story that was written before. I'm saying the very idea. The idea that you have characters that are putting on costumes and that we're rendering the costumes as though they're in comic books, right? We're not making jokes about yellow spandex, right? The fact that you have Superman and he's flying through the air and he's wearing his cape just like he was in the comic books you read when you were a boy. That's what I mean by a nostalgia product. I mean that these are things which are, and this applies to He-Man, this applies to Star Wars, this applies to anything which is like, okay, you've got audience capture with a particular IP, and what you're doing, what's going to make this thing turbocharged and make it huge is the fact that you've got this huge population of 20 to 30, 40-year-olds that remember this thing from when they're kids and introduce their kids to it. You know, it's kind of like that cyclic nostalgia, the same type that Star Wars has. You know, so it's kind of like you look at Star Wars and who are the people that you're capturing with that? All the boys who bought X-Wings as kids, you know, all the boys who played with lightsabers as kids. You know, you do Barbie, it's all the girls who played with Barbie dolls. So when you tell a story that appeals to the people who played with Barbie dolls in the movie for the people who played with X-Wings, then you have that dissonance. So it's not a case of, you don't make shows for women, but you have to make sure that you understand what your audience is going to be entertained by.
So just to make sure I understand what you're saying clearly, you are saying that if you are making a superhero movie, you need to respect the male audience,
Oh no, not the male
basically.
audience. You need to respect the audience that has nostalgia for that particular product. So
That
of course,
product.
if they
But
if they're girls that like Star Wars, they're going to like Star Wars,
okay,
and they're going to like Star Wars the way the majority of people who like Star Wars, you know.
okay, okay. I think
So
I can agree
what
with that
happens
too.
what
I think I
happens
can
if
agree
you're
with. Okay, sorry.
okay? Yeah, I was gonna say what happens if that for a product that is getting long in the tooth, like 80, 90 years old, the nostalgia factor is not enough to push it into profitability in recent times. So for example, nostalgia for Captain America.
So I would say that in some cases, so for example, if you take Captain America,
Yeah.
Captain America is getting a bit long in the tooth, but Captain America has been revamped over and over and over and over and over again. And it has a rather timeless form of audience capture. It's a military story. You know that it's all about Ura, America, and all that kind of
Mm,
stuff. So if you go ahead and you do the Winter Soldier, and if you go ahead and you do Captain America, the first Avenger, you can reinvent Captain America, but you still know that you're targeting the same segment that would have liked it the
but
earlier
that's like
time.
that segment is aging out, and
Yeah, yeah, I know.
you want to maintain profitability. You want to bring in the newer crowd.
So what you do with it is, instead of going to a completely different direction, you go, okay, instead of the Nazis, let's go to the Cold War. Or instead of what's it called, Vietnam, we're going to the information war, that sort of a thing. You keep that consistency, and that way it remains strong, you
And,
know.
and to be honest, the whole idea of nostalgia, it's almost like a circular thing that runs on itself. I mean, to take a Captain America example, the first film, some people would have nostalgia from that cheesy film they had initially.
Yeah.
Some have it
Yeah,
from the comic. That's gone
yeah,
by now. Now you have these films that are out there. Remember, these films now are about 20 years. Comes up to about
yeah.
20 years
Yeah.
old. So now, in next 5-10 years time, it'll be nostalgia for the people who grew up with MCU and the
Okay.
incoming.
Exactly.
So that's inbuilt.
And we see that with Superman as well, for example. So
Yeah.
we with most people who want to watch Superman now, they remember Christopher Reeves, and da 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 da
Yeah, but,
da
see,
da.
but, but,
Da.
but when I say to me, when I call something a nostalgia film, I'll say No Way Home was 100%. Is it No Way Home? I always get his name mixed up.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
No
yeah.
Way Home. Yeah,
No Way
it's
Home was
pure fan service.
that was mining nostalgia with no shame
No shame
included.
whatsoever.
But
So No Way Home is an
first,
extreme example. That's one
but the
where it's
first
like,
two to me are simply progressing the story of like, oh, let's give you guys a new version of Spider-Man, or let's give
yeah.
you. I wouldn't call it
And I get it that way. So as I said
Yeah.
earlier on, my sort of definition of nostalgia is using it to describe the product. So for example, with Barbie, there's not been any Barbie movie that we know of, but it's mining nostalgia for the product. So all these superhero movies are mining nostalgia for the product. No Way Home is doubling down on it by basically fan servicing like no man's business other movies that have previously successfully mined that nostalgia. So I
And
hope you can understand basically where I'm going with that and how that audience capture thing is actually working. The fact that the primary audience, the audience that remembers this thing and loves this thing, the core audience that you want to get, you have to be aware of that audience and you have to cater to that audience. And if you think of that audience as a male audience or as a particular gender or whatever, that's when you start running into trouble. Because at the end of the day, there's a whole load of people who liked these things, and you just need to think about what they liked about the thing. There's going to be males, there's going to be females, there's going to be people of different races, and as long as you cater to them, you're going to do well. So,
Okay.
and if
Sorry,
you have an
just
idea of who those people are, you can do contemporary stuff that those people are going to like and put it in that movie, you know.
okay.
Uh,
I think I get your point, and I think I agree with you to an extent. To basically respect the audience that originally loves the product when you're making an adaptation, even if it's
Pretty
not going to be
much.
100%. faithful, you need to respect that audience particularly. But
Respect that
and
audience and recognize that you are captured by that audience.
okay,
So you have
now
to do what that audience would like.
yeah, I think I respect that idea in theory, but one thing I've come to recognize is that Hollywood is built on trying to capture as much more. Like it's built that okay, we want to respect this audience, but if you want to capture the market entirely, the audience that you're catering for is a very small section of it. You need to make it more mass appeal. It's why movies
So,
like Guardians of the Galaxy are
so
not a completely faithful adaptation to
yeah,
the
exactly.
comic book. It's
So
yeah.
here's the thing
So
today. What you're just describing, you're describing the very thinking that has caused them to completely destroy a lot of these products. The idea is that, oh, we've decided that the original nostalgia group is built in. So they're going to come no matter what. So we have to cater hard to completely different segments. And that's how we're going to bring a whole bunch of new people in. This is the thinking that has come up. And the problem with that is, unfortunately, what you do with that is you end up alienating the core audience. Because at the end of the day, even though you're bringing in new people, you have to understand that those new people are not going to come in a huge crowd. They're going to be drawn in. They're going to be pulled in, and if it's good, then they'll stay. So you have to, the original MCU was very smart in that it always had that core, and then it had like frosting on top to bring in the other people. So it was always sort of subdued one way or another. But what we're seeing with the new stuff is, and not even only with the new stuff, in particular with something like Star Wars, for example, you are actually going against the original audience. You're doing things that are calculated to alienate the original audience, and you are denying your audience capture. You're building something that a completely different audience would enjoy, an audience that is really not here to watch this film.
Sometimes I
You
think
know?
I think sometimes we overthink these things. If
Mm.
I'm being honest, I think
No.
I think the problem simply is you've churned out so many films. Bottom line is, if you make a good film, your first task is make a good film. Some of these people they get carried away thinking about other things than making a good film.
So here's the problem, Dapo.
So
Here's the problem, Dapo.
let me finish my point first, and then you can come in. What I'm trying to say is, if you look at MCU, is a classic example. They've produced how many films now in such a short period of time?
Oh man, it's been
The
a
problem
lot.
is it's a what you call what's that thing? Factor of diminishing. When you got diminishing returns, they're running. You're struggling now to come up with something new, something different, and that's what you try. You're trying to. They just start to try too hard. It's to me. Almost inbuilt into what's happening to them. Same with Star Wars. When you get to say, I mean, if you look at James Bond. James Bond was releasing one film of one type of person. They did 22 films in God knows what. How old am I? In about 60 years. MCU's done one on that number.
65.
Yes.
No,
But
no.
but
MCU churning out films like that within such a short time.
but I will
Yeah, go
argue
on.
MCU
Yeah.
has a higher quality ratio
So,
than James Bond.
so here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's one of so Dapo. Before let me
Yeah,
just
sorry.
let me
Yeah,
just
go on.
put this out there so that I can
Yeah.
before I go into the Marvel
Yeah.
review, so that I can just
Yeah.
add to that point you're making. The MCU released 22 movies during
Yes.
the Infinity Saga.
Yes.
And they kept hitting the mark over and over and over again.
No, they
So
didn't. Is it?
but the point is that by the time they got to the end of that 22 film saga, they released what was at the time the biggest movie in history.
Yes.
So, and not only that, even though there were misses along the way, most of the time, even those misses that came along the way were still accepted because the ratio of signal to noise was high. So there's and if you look at something like Star Wars, we think that they're overblown, but at the end of the day, how many Star Wars movies are there? 10, 11, then they're not even up to a fraction of what was it. So it's not just a question of diminishing.
No, but wait. Can I make a point there?
If you understand your audience and you capture them, you'll do well.
No, if you're going like this, and this is what probably the Marvel is, they went like this. Boom, 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 boom. Reaches peak, like the peak. And everyone post that. I can tell you now, there's a lot of films post that film that are better than the films that were before it. But nobody says that. They'll say all the films post end of game are crap.
Oh no, there were some really good ones. So of course, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, No Way
no, forget that one
Home.
because even things like I'll put Internals, Shang-Chi against many of the ones.
Don't call
No,
Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi is better than Iron Man 3.
Oh, those films.
Shang-Chi is better than Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3 was panned.
No.
Yeah, but I'm saying people. But what the narrative now is everything that came
Okay.
after is what done before.
No, so
people gloss
there
over
there are
everything.
there are people that will always be like hyperbolic. The truth of the matter is that if you do look at all the Marvel films that came out, even looking at their box office, right, not all of them are flops. Wakanda Forever is not a flop. Multiverse of Madness is not a flop. So the MCU has been getting some hits
so
here
that's my
and there,
point.
some near misses.
That's why I use the phrase diminishing returns. You've reached a peak.
But even then, it's not really diminishing returns because if you look at Multiverse of Madness, that's $800 million. I mean,
but
there were not
still,
that many movies that made that
what
much.
I'm saying is, 800 million compared to 2 billion. Nothing at the moment.
It's a single character movie. It wasn't an ensemble movie. If the new Avengers comes out and doesn't make 2 billion, maybe. But
the bottom line is they've peaked. There's peaks, and when you look from a peak, it always looks worse.
But when we could have said that about Avengers 2, we could have said that about Avengers 1. At the end of the day, Marvel has its pattern.
No. Avengers 2 was even panned down. Avengers 2 was panned compared to Avengers 1.
Yeah, I know, but then we could have said it. I peaked at that, but I thought that it didn't make the billions it was supposed to make. Marvel as peaks, but then at the end of the day, Endgame still came after that, right? Blew everything out of the water. The bottom line is this. The bottom line is this.
But there was still a plan towards that. Well, there was still. I'm saying to you now that peak of Endgame. Almost, I said it back then that they should have taken a year off. I said it back then. They should have taken a year off. Because that high was way too high. We're talking about
true. But it's been a long time since Endgame now. It's been multiple years. So they have basically what I'm saying is this. It's not as simple as it has peaked and it's going down naturally.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is also now they're struggling to come up with, in the end, if you're in the same sandbox, the more you play in it, the harder it becomes.
If they do well, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 shows that if they do well by the audience that already loves this stuff, they will hit. I think the overthinking is even going in the opposite direction right now.
I'm saying it's harder to do well.
I think we're overthinking. No, I disagree with you.
I'm saying the overthinking is going in the opposite direction. If you do a good film for that audience, it doesn't matter whether there's a decline. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether they're tired of it. If you do a good film for the audience that wants it, they're going to show up for it. No Way Home proves that. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 proves that. The overthinking is going in the opposite direction.
No, my point was it's harder to come up with something new. That's my point.
But you don't need to
come up. You don't have
No
to
Way
come up
Home
with
shows
something
you don't need to come up with something new. Guardians of the Galaxy shows you don't have to come up with something new. Give the audience what they want.
No, it was something new.
Be captured by your audience.
It's something new. What do you mean? It's
New Way Home.
No
Way Home is a nostalgia film, just a rehash of 3 Spider-Men. What was new about it?
Which we've never had it before. We've never had it before, so it's new.
I wouldn't say that. That film was a rehash.
What I'm saying is every film, if you're making it in the same sandbox, it gets harder and harder to make a good film. If you make a good film, yes, it will sell, which Guardians of the Galaxy did. But I said the more and more you do it, because you oh god, I need to do something else now. I have to come up.
No,
some people hit it.
I think the difference is the movies they're making now. A lot of them are not even of the same quality with the movies we were making before. They are not good. They are good to bad. They are good to bad ratio. So they're not even making movies of the same quality. It's not harder.
You don't need a new movie, just a good movie.
I think it becomes harder because you're trying to repeat yourself. I think it becomes harder. Personally.
No, but even where they're repeating themselves is still significantly worse than the previous movies they made.
I would disagree. And this is what I think taste buds have changed. I think taste buds have changed.
I think Guardians of the Galaxy 3's success shows that taste buds have not.
Tell me what you think is the worst film post Endgame.
Oh man, is that going to be hard?
Easy.
Okay, that one actually, you know what? I will agree.
Love and Thunder.
No, no, I actually totally agree with that. That is
Yeah,
I actually think it's Quantumania. I think Quantumania is worse than Love and Thunder.
No, Love and
oh
Thunder
no,
is
and
no,
worse.
no, tell us what.
see,
I
I
thought
like.
Quantumania was utter shit.
and
I
therefore
hate.
Yeah,
look at Quantum
yeah,
Mania, look at Thor
yeah,
Love and Thunder. They are
yeah,
significantly worse films than the
yeah,
ones that came before them. Not even in terms of they are making the same
yeah,
thing. Like
yeah, yeah,
if you
yeah,
put
yeah,
them side by side, if they released these movies back then, they would do
yeah,
Mhm.
worse because they are bad
yeah.
movies on their
Yeah.
own standard. So if they've made these movies of the same quality, of the same, even if you told the same story as they did before, and if they release an Ant-Man 3 that is basically Ant-Man 1 reskinned, it will do better than what they produce now. So
Oh, you
it's
know,
not about, oh,
Yeah.
it's harder to tell a story. It's
no,
just that they're
I think
just
it's harder,
telling
but
bad
I think
stories.
those two are good examples of where it's really they're just really bad films.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the
No,
end,
because that
if you
if you
pick a
say
bad
it's
film,
harder to if you say it's harder to
yeah.
tell a story nowadays, I kind of disagree with that
No,
because
I
we've
don't,
seen
no, no, no. I just say it's harder to tell a story nowadays. I said it's harder for them to a good
But
story without because they try not to repeat themselves. Remember, this is
no see,
yeah, go
but
on.
we still get good comics, and comics have been going on for much
They've been
longer.
around for
Yeah,
decades,
Yeah,
rehashing the same stories
we are the
over
same
and over and
people.
over and over
We are the
again.
same people. We are the same people here. We're always saying the best comic when we talk about it. We're talking about something about 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It's only rarely we talk about something that's this year or last year. Let's just be truthful.
Doesn't stop us from reading the new comics, you know.
Yeah,
And
we
at
will
the end
complain,
of the day, some of the
but we
new
will
comics are
complain,
huge, like the
but
Jonathan Hickman stuff,
we will
the
complain. It's
Secret
not as good
Wars,
as
you know,
before.
Illuminati. You know, it's not it's like 10, 15 years old now, but at
Yeah,
the same time, these are still comic books that are being held
yeah,
in pretty much high regard.
and
You know.
you
but
almost
I
even
personally feel
prove my
I
point.
personally feel
Yeah,
that comic
yeah.
books nowadays overall are much better than before. The quality I think has improved. Like overall
The
average
baseline,
they have
the average
yes the
quality. Yeah,
baseline as
yeah.
we
Yeah, the
might not be
baseline is
getting the
yes,
as in
and
Chris,
that's what.
we're not be getting the Neil Gaiman, we're
That's
not be
right,
getting
and that's my point.
the
The baseline is
Alan Moore.
increased. The
Yeah,
exceptions have
Okay.
not.
So just to put everything into a nutshell, the point that I'm making, without overthinking or whatever, is just be captured by your audience, recognize your audience, make stuff for your audience. And the
Make
reason I
good
brought
films.
that up, yeah, the reason I brought that up is
Yeah, Marvels. Let's
when
talk
I
about
saw
Marvels.
when I saw the failure of the Marvels
Yeah,
in the market, and I hadn't watched it, but I watched Barbie, and I heard the general the complaints, because of course people would complain, right? And Captain Marvel in particular had drawn like the hatred of this whole online group of like angry men that just hate anything that has a woman in it. I thought that they were attacking the Marvels because the Marvels had doubled down on that stuff, and was basically a 2 hour She-Hulk. So it got me thinking that okay, this is just a sign that Marvel should not be making this mistake. And well, the reason I brought that up is when I actually watched the movie, man, was I wrong, right? The Marvels is not that kind of movie at all. Watching the Marvels, I would say that I cannot attribute the market failure of the Marvels to any of the things that the usual suspects would say. It's not She-Hulk, right? The Marvels is not a movie that comes out and has brought a bunch of
She-Hulk is your current standard for
oh
bad.
man, She-Hulk. If
You
you
should
know,
see
but
that post face every
Red,
time you say She-Hulk.
Red, She-Hulk is actually not my standard. You know what my standard for badness is in MCU?
What?
Secret Invasion. I mean,
Ooh,
you guys are so
let's
lucky
not
that
even
I
start.
was not on
Let's,
this show
no,
when
let's
that
not even,
show came out. Because man,
no,
if
it's
you know
we all
the
agree.
hatred I have for that thing,
We all agree. We
in
all
fact,
agree
let
on
me
that
not
one. That's
even
fine.
resurrect
Let's
it.
not go there yet.
It's terrible. It has all the mistakes, all of them, what from top to bottom. Anyway, but we won't talk about that. The Marvels didn't have those problems. The Marvels is a movie where you have three female characters, so you totally would imagine that this is going to be a movie where they're going to spend the whole movie doing wink, wink, nudge, nudge, talking about online comic book geeks as being stupid people, blah 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 blah. Didn't do any of that. This was a proper space adventure. It was fun. I think one of the things that hit me the most about this movie when I started watching it was how quickly it jumped into the action. I mean, you're watching the movie and hardly any time has passed, and the next thing you know, you're hearing rap music You're seeing these characters, they're jumping around. You're seeing Kamala Khan, and she's running, she's sliding up the wall, she's spinning on the side and taking people out. They're having this action sequence where the camera is moving and swinging through the action scene. There's no punches being pulled on the degree of destruction that we're seeing. We literally see somebody get smashed up through several floors and burst out of the top of a roof of a house and then fall all the way down and hit the ground. I mean, just watching it, I'm like, whoa, what's this? I mean, it just sort of reminded me of the beginning, the introduction to the original Ant-Man Aquaman movie from DC, where we had the battle between Atlanta and the sort of soldiers from the deep that just kind of burst into Arthur Curry's dad's house. I mean, it had that energy there, and then the special effects, I was like, okay, okay. And I just kind of sat up and I paid attention, and then you watch it, and eventually I got to understand what the sort of feel of the movie was. It was a space adventure vibe. It was very much like it looked to me, looking at this movie and looking at Quantum Mania, the way it sort of changed the sort of quantum realm exploration into something that looked like it was in space. It really makes me feel like there was meant to be a sort of cosmic universe that was supposed to come up after the end of Avengers Endgame. I really do believe that that must have been planned and that James Gunn was going to be the guy to direct it. And we were going to have a lot of films that were going to be set in like colorful space adventures. And when we look at the desiccated corpse of Thor, Love and Thunder and the bomb site that is Quantumania, we can see the scattered debris remains of what the idea was supposed to be. Because looking at this, I looked at the multicolors, I looked at the way the supreme intelligence was shown with like the big face and everything, and I'm like, oh my god, holy Kirby, you know. Um, I looked at that and I thought that okay, the vestiges of something great that was going to have existed in this thing, you know. But it's a pity. There was a lot of comedy, there was a lot of lightheartedness, but James Gunn himself has this touch that just wasn't there. Um, the fact that music factored a lot into it was also something which made me go, I really do think that if this was more like a Guardians of the Galaxies, if the choices were more on the nose in that regard, I'd be enjoying this a lot more. But they weren't bad. It was like, okay, this is part of a style, and it's kind of like an above average um, rendition of that style. So I find myself
Okay.
enjoying that, you know. I also
Okay.
think there was a controversy that was overblown, but before I go on to that, Sunday, you seem to have something to say.
Oh yes, I like your review a bit. I think you've
A
I think you
bit.
A
misidentified
bit.
a bit. You've misidentified the reason why people didn't like this film. And so in your expectations, once the expectations were met, you missed the real issues people had.
Oh no,
It wasn't that
I haven't. Hold on, Tunde. So I think I'll
yeah.
stop you there because I haven't gotten to the end of my
Okay.
review. So let me
Oh,
keep
okay.
going. So I know there was a controversy about the musical. I think that was kind of overblown. I There's one thing about that musical though. That musical kind of bummed me out that Brie Larson is playing Carol. Um, Look, I don't know if a lot of people here read a lot of Miss Marvel comics, but I practically collected them. In fact, the entire Jimmy Palmiotti run, I have the whole thing from start to finish. Miss Marvel was a character that I read a lot, and when I say Miss Marvel, I'm not talking about Kamala Khan. I'm talking about the original Miss Marvel, who is the character we now call Captain Marvel, and that's Carol Danvers. And if anybody remembers, before and even during the sort of reinvention of Miss Marvel as Captain Marvel in the comics, she was always supposed to be this gorgeous blonde bombshell. Marvel had a number of characters. I think it was Spider Woman, um, Jessica Jones, and a sort of Spider Woman, Jessica Drew, Jessica Jones, and Carol Danvers. And whenever they appeared in the Avengers setting, they were always like these three sort of like super. and you can all that sort of character has a type of story that we take part in, and a much stronger casting for Carol Danvers. Maybe somebody like Charlize Theron or even Margot Robbie would have picked what kind of scene.
I,
That's the kind
I
of thing that
disagree.
happens
I
to
disagree.
characters. That's the kind of thing that happens to characters like Wonder Woman. That's the kind of thing that
So,
happens
so
to
I was going to,
characters like
I was going to draw that
um
parallel.
exactly. It happens to characters like Wonder Woman. It happens to characters like Hellcat. That's the sort of thing that happens with them, you know. And with Brie Larson, it was just kind of like, it's not quite hitting
Listen,
you. Not selling
So
me on this princess thing,
if I could say
you know.
something. So what I'm saying here so far is, Wale, all your points are valid to how you feel. Your feelings are valid. How do you say? But I am seeing a rehash of Wonder Woman 84 here. When the way, oh, Wale defended that movie.
Oh yeah, I
I was
did.
like,
In
I
yeah,
84?
remember.
oh yeah,
Yes.
oh yeah,
I
Wale,
defended Wonder Woman
oh,
84.
he did,
Yeah.
and he was like, oh,
I
Wale.
I forgot about
Oh, he
that.
did. And he's like, oh, I read all the issues. I have all the comics. And so Wale loves his characters. He loves his characters.
Two of
But
them. Two of them. So yes, indeed. You will find that I do in fact love these characters.
I know
Um
you
yeah.
can look. You see,
This
that,
is
look at that.
literally original. Like this, I bought this when it first came out, the first
Yeah.
collection of the original Captain Marvel stuff. I also collected the G. Wheeler Wilson Kamala Khans when they were first released. I remember following it up until when it was released. So these are characters that I've actually loved for a very long time. So I
Yeah.
actually was looking forward to them. Monica Rambeau, maybe not. I don't really know that much about Spectrum. I did get Next Wave Agents of Hate because of her, but yeah, let's not get sidetracked into that.
Okay.
The
Okay.
bottom line is that I mean I'm looking at the casting for Brie Larson and I'm thinking this is not who should be playing Carol Danvers, you know. So
I
that was
100%
my
disagree.
Over to you,
But
that was
Tunde.
my problem with that musical scene. Apart from that, the idea of having her turn into a princess and be dancing around in a planet where you have to sing and there be all this like pretty stuff going on along, this is what you see in Miss Marvel comics, and it is perfectly okay. You know, it's what you see in Wonder Woman comics. That's how those things are supposed to go. You know, so I thought it was cool. You know, but
uh,
unfortunately, Brie Larson messes it up, and she is the beginning of things going downhill. So another thing that I'm going to just mention a lot of things that I thought were pretty bad about the film. So while I did like the film, I did like the action, I did like a few things. The casting of Brie Larson was basically made like clear to me that this was a terrible casting for Captain Marvel.
But it's not a new
But there
casting.
was there was what do you say?
It's not a
A
new
recap.
casting. She's been around for a
I
while.
know, I know, but you know,
she made a billion dollars.
I've been allowing it. I've been like, okay, okay, but now I'm just like, no, this was a mistake, you know. And then there's Darben. I thought she was shit. I thought the worst elements of the movie centered around her. I think the nature of the threat she posed was pretty much the weakest element of the movie. I think when the scroll homeworld was destroyed, it was almost like a joke. It's like a whole movie was reduced to one village or one, I don't know what it even was. The
Settlement.
whole emperor was there just standing in the street, and it was just one street, and that's the whole planet. And they sucked the whole atmosphere, and you saved one handful of people, meaning that you literally failed to save the planet, and it was genocided, millions and billions and billions and billions of people dead, and then you're there cracking jokes. It was, I don't really get it. It seemed almost like those things were kind of like thrown in there by somebody who didn't really care about them and just wanted the storyline to just pass along. I mean, even the when the water planet was destroyed, when they just randomly decided to escape the water planet area, and we're just sort of like meant to imply that now the water planet has been turned into a desert. We're not even shown it. You know, Brie Larson doesn't even say bye bye to her French girlfriend. They're just gone. They're in the middle of a desert, and then the conflict changes to, oh, my auntie, you abandoned me, my auntie. It's like, mm, it's almost like somebody thought that one particular conflict was more important than the other one, and the sort of multiversal destruction of planets and so on was just a silly Marvel thing that we just have to just treat with levity and just ignore. You know, you've just caused, I mean, Kamala herself at her young age just caused the genocide of millions of people who she had just been dancing with. And she's there and she's doing shrink. She's doing a psychoanalyst for her two aunties. It was a little bit silly. Um, the whole colonialism and resource extraction analog, it was fine. Oh, we colonized them before we're going to go and take their resources. It's okay. You do those things. It's fine. It's fine. One thing that I could have done without was Captain Marvel not figuring out that she could have just literally just gone to Hala and restarted the star. Like somebody just had to suggest it to you in passing and then you just randomly went and did it. I really do think that could have been handled better. I really do think there should have been some sort of internal conflict, some sort of reason why she doesn't want to do it. Maybe she thinks that she would die. Maybe when she sees what Monica Rambeau does at the end, sacrificing herself, it inspires her to go and sacrifice herself to restart the star. There's something you can do to give it some gravitas, some power, but it was kind of all that stuff was kind of lame. So for me, Darben centers around all the things that are kind of bad about the show. And yeah, it's too bad. Whenever Darben shows her face is too bad. That aside, I think it was kind of hilarious how they lampooned random touching of glowy stuff. I think Tunde would like that because Tunde really hated that aspect of Monica Rambeau in WandaVision. So the fact that they made a lot of fun out of it here was it was interesting. The whole kitten and Flurkin stuff. I know a lot of people love that stuff, but
They did. I thought a lot of people
me,
hated it.
for me, it was too much. I thought, yeah, you are really you realize that the cat made a lot of people like Captain Marvel, so you're overloading us with cat stuff here. It's like, it's okay, but let's not go too far, you know. Yeah, and to be honest, um, the last aspect of the movie that came very close to annoying me but didn't was Captain Rambo's big sacrifice. So the big sacrifice having to go out to the other side and lock the dimensional tier from the other side. I looked at it and I thought, why do you always have to come up with a convoluted way to kill the black character? You know, first of all, it's just a lot of black trauma. She's the one whose mother died of cancer. She got blipped by Thanos. She came back. Her mother was already dead, and now she's the one that's going to go and kill herself so that everybody else can survive. I was just kind of looking at it, and my Dr. Umar hat was fading into existence on my head. Yes, my Wakanda senses were activating. I was like, "What is this?" Nia Da Costa, you failed us. Our woman has failed us. But I like the way it was subverted. I like the way she ended up literally being in an alternate universe with the X-Men and with her mother having been brought back to life. I thought that was really cool. And it also made me really sad that this movie, which is supposed to be the first time we literally see the X-Men. I'm so surprised that I was not spoiled. I am so shocked that I was not spoiled. The first time that we literally see the X-Men in the MCU, the proper X-Men actually, not the cameo appearance from Multiverse of Madness, which was just a stupid joke, you know, with the Beast in all his blue glory. I thought that was great. I thought that was a great subversion of that. I thought that was pretty interesting. And it left me looking at the movie and going, I think this is a good film. I think this is very nice. And so I think its
Why do you laugh?
failure, I think
Tunde's
its
laughing.
failure has to be attributed to something else other than its raw quality, you know? So that's
It's
where I
very
am
funny.
with the Marvels.
Okay, like I'll start off quickly. I have
Wait,
just a few things to say.
Wait,
Dakpa's been
today.
smiling since. Let Dakpa talk.
No, no,
Dakpa,
no, no, I'm not going to talk. Why did never give us a score? Yeah, give
Yeah.
us your rating.
Oh, 7/10. 7/10.
Ooh.
No thinking.
So
7.
3.5. Okay.
Oh well.
4.5.
We've
Okay.
already, we've already done this before
3.5 stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
previous podcast. Right.
So
So yeah, go on. But
I'll quickly say for
don't go too deep because remember you've
no, no,
already
no.
given your
I'm not
opinion.
going to. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm not going to the like. One of the reason why you were not spoiled about it is that because nobody cared about it when it happened. The
Yo,
beast
and
showing
you
up
know
in the
what?
movie.
And
Oh,
you know
okay.
what? Okay, I thought you were saying nobody cared about the movie. Okay, so nobody cared about
No,
Beast.
nobody cared about
I was
Beast.
going to say that nobody caring about the movie. That's actually going to be a point that I would want to make about the movie's
No,
failure. But you go on about Beast not
yeah,
appearing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's how bad the cameo is. That you are introducing the X-Men, and it didn't excite anybody enough to go and say, "Oh no!" Like you didn't see rounds of speculations elsewhere that, wow, what does this mean? Like, how does this relate? That's to show you how badly the movie was received.
But yes,
But
I didn't understand why he said the multiverse
it
of
was
madness
good.
was throwaway compared to this. This is 2 seconds.
This is
At least
Oh,
this is
no,
so
no, no, no. When I said throwaway, I was talking
Professor
about
X was there for like
I was talking
5 minutes.
the cameo appearance. So talking
yeah,
Yeah.
about
yeah.
yeah. Because I mean they appeared and they teased everybody like, oh my god, this is amazing, and then they just all died like
Yeah, but they
papas.
still spent longer in the film than they did than Beast. To me, that was more significant. But yeah, so they go on.
But
So they
yeah, what I'll just quickly say is that Wally has listed out all the reasons why this film is a piece of shit movie and why nobody actually likes this movie, why it's a badly made movie. He has actually listed out all the reasons in his listing, in his review. But he apparently still loves it anyway, and I think that's fair. We all have movies like that we love regardless of even
Oh
when we
yeah,
recognize the
yeah.
flaws.
A lot
So
of the things that were bad about the movie, I think I would attach them to Darben. And the stuff that I loved about the movie is like so separate from her that it's hard for that stuff to bring the movie down for me. I can see how it would bring
yeah,
the movie down for others.
yeah. The last thing I would say as Wendy was talking about, it just struck me that there was probably a very serious script somewhere in the beginning of the making of the movie that this will be focusing on Captain Marvel dealing with the loss of this thing, the genocide of this thing, and all of that serious storytelling. And then the person said, "I said, nope, make it funnier." They go to the script, said, "Nope, this is not funny enough. Make it funnier." And they keep on rewriting it until we have this misgotten, forbidden son of a rubbish mess that was
How
made.
many stars did you give the movie? Let me check.
I think it was. Did I give it up to a star? I can't
I
remember. I
think
Oh
think
my
this
god,
was
you
the
hated
this
it
was the
that much?
lowest.
I
This
think
was
it
the
was the
lowest.
lowest
I'm
rated
giving it the lowest. I hate it.
for the podcast as
Yeah,
a whole.
yeah. This was the lowest movie
So
rated
that
as a
means
whole on the
that means
podcast.
Dapo would have given it the highest score.
Who?
Dapo.
No,
Me.
Yeah, what score
no.
did you give it?
I can't remember. It was very low though. I did not like it at all.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it
okay.
averaged around 1.5 on the podcast when
Yeah,
Forum was
yeah.
rated it.
I have to check. I
Yeah,
have to check the. I
that
can't remember our
yeah,
exact scores. I'll have to
Um,
check.
I
But I
wish
don't
yeah.
think anybody. I
And
don't think anybody gave it a pass mark. That was
I
for
wish I
sure.
was there when you guys were rating it.
You know,
We would
I
have,
Yeah,
we
didn't
would
give
have, we
anybody.
would
yeah,
have
it's
rehashed Wonder Woman
yeah,
84. It would have
for
been
basically because
this.
like
yeah.
the main
I
summary of
hated
the
it
movie, the,
singing.
the main summary was that it was incoherent. And you mentioned comparing to Guardian of the Galaxy, and I think maybe that's what they were going for, like balancing the
Mhm.
humor and the seriousness, but it just didn't work. That's why you have the scenes of the genocide happening and they're switching to antis fight. It just didn't work. It just didn't fit the tone of the movie they were going for. They didn't get it right. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I
I'll
think that was
just I'll stop there.
the
Yeah,
general gist of that podcast. If I remember
Mhm.
correctly, is the incoherent tone, and I think we were not happy with the background push to the background fact that Captain Marvel had committed genocide. That how was that not the main story itself? And
Mm.
this is something that
Yeah.
happened off screen, and kind of telling us the cat scene. We all hated it. I think. Am I correct in saying that today?
Yeah, the flag. Yeah, the flag is on with multiple kittens.
We
We
all
all,
we all
we all,
hated
we
the
all
dance
hated it.
scene, the musical number as well.
I absolutely hated that one.
I feel that's the general gist. And yeah, we all agree
oh,
with
and
you.
Black Girl Magic. Yeah,
Yeah, oh Black Girl Magic. Oh my god. Yeah, we all agreed with you about the villain. What's her name?
that
Darben.
Darben.
then.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
another bugbear. I think another problem we had was the parents. Was that correct? Am I correct? To say that
Oh,
Yes,
you didn't
Kamala.
like you
yeah,
didn't like
yeah.
Kamala's family, and
No,
We didn't like the
No,
fact
I
that
think that
I
was
thought they were
yeah.
okay. I thought they
the
were
way they were
fun.
getting people with frying pan, and then they're now in space, and then in charge of space, giving orders to seasons. That would just seem
Yeah,
almost.
that's Guardians of the Galaxy type stuff. That's
Is this
comedy.
Disney?
You know.
Is this what I'm watching Disney Channel? Where I am, you know, I find that really annoying.
Oh god. Okay, I can see
But
that. I think
but
because I was very quickly sort of pulled into that sort of space comedy mindset. For me, the action sequences, the events stuff that felt like I should not ignore this, what I was saying.
It's like
Well,
we're watching.
in your case, it was more like you were expecting the Darben stuff as the main story, and it was bad, and the comedy stuff was clashing with it for you. So the comedy stuff being there was a problem, and the Darben stuff was bad.
No,
Yeah.
so it's not about the comedy being a
yeah.
problem. It's about the comedy not matching the tone of the movie. Like
Oh.
you can do the comedy movie,
You
and
have
that's
always
fine.
hated Athos. You've hated it even in the best examples of it. You hated it in Guardians of the Galaxy. So my guy,
Yes.
you are just filled a flaming ball of hatred when it
You know,
comes to that stuff.
remember
So
that comment I made today that I actually enjoyed, especially I think it was the opening 5 minutes and the space scenes. You know, I told you that I loved it. That oh god, this is gonna be proper. Like even when they showed them come out of spaceship, and I love all of that. But after a while, to me, it just descended into a
oh
feel.
man, when I
Um,
liked the way they were going
you know,
through
Um,
the space gates, and some of those
the,
scenes, I found myself wishing I was watching it in the cinema on those scenes, honestly.
mm. The
I
last
thought
thing I'll
that
say, I hate I don't like Brie Larson slander. I'm going to blame the
I'm
director
very sorry,
for this
but
movie.
yeah, I'm very sorry, but
This is the same Brie Larson
yeah.
that did Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and she can
She
sing.
wasn't the main character in Scott Pilgrim.
No,
You're
but she
talking
was
about the
there, and she was
singing,
a great.
right?
I'm talking about the character,
Mm,
the actress. The actress is a great actress. Like when they casted her for this movie,
I
seeing her body of work, she was someone that could act this thing
Okay,
well.
okay,
I'm going to
as
okay.
blame the
in an
direction for the
actress.
movie.
I'm not talking about
Tunde,
an actress here. I'm talking about the raw material she has to work
Tunde,
with.
let's
She just
calm down with
doesn't
the great.
look like Carol Danvers. She's not Carol Danvers as a person.
Not my
Yeah,
Carol.
yeah, yeah. It's the opposite of the Gal Gadot casting. You got an excellent actress who looks nothing like the role, as opposed to a terrible actress who looks perfect for the role.
Okay, fair
right,
enough.
okay. And I think with that, we've come actually today. Do we
Yeah.
okay next week? So are we doing this writers
Yes. I'm going to prepare a list
ranking?
of writers, and we're going to
Okay,
rank them. Then determine our top five, top 10, and we'll go from
okay,
there.
Are you gonna share the list of the writers before?
Yes, I'll share the
Okay.
list way before.
Okay.
okay. I'll do some research as well to see who some of my favorite writers. And are we going to bring evidence to back up our assertions for
What?
these writers? Are we gonna do we need to back them up with like
I
runs
mean,
and arcs
Yes.
and books stuff like that?
yeah, back up your assertions, but you need to. It's basically convincing the rest of us your writer belongs in your
Okay,
ranks.
so are we voting? Or are we convincing? What are we going to do next week? Should we do a vote
It's the same.
or
No, it's
convince?
the empirical way we do it. You need to convince. You need to convince the majority on the podcast that your writer belongs in a particular rank.
Oh, to
Otherwise,
allow the
whichever.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
No, you have to stand down for Kex to come back on the show for one show.
No.
No.
I'm
This is
happy for
punishment.
Kex to be on this show. I'm happy for him to be on this show. He should
Will
come
you
back.
will you will you express your power on this podcast or not? Say it now. For you can,
He will. Do you see the way he
no.
just let
If you
out the
think
cat?
it won't, then so today, will you exert your power? Yes or no?
Let me think about that.
He will. He will. This one.
Yeah, bastard.
No. But that, if you had that power, won't you use it?
I told Kex that Tunde said he's going to stand down. Kex said, let's get
now,
that
now
guy
I,
light to you. And he already came to hunt him on Twitter or
right.
somewhere.
Okay. Well, I think we're good off track. We'll take this offline and
Yeah.
see if I can find a safe space for Kex to operate in. I guess with that, we have to say our goodbyes.
Goodbye.
Yeah, so today,
Okay, guys, goodbye. And may all your cakes continue to run away from you.
Red.
Enjoy for now until Kex gets you back. Goodbye, everyone.
And Wale.
Sayonara, everybody. And remember, if you watch a film and you don't like it, it's your own time that was wasted.
Thank you guys so much for listening. I will see you later.
Oh wow. That's it.
Okay.